Now, for those of you who are new here, you may want to consider subscribing. We hope you do. Subscribe and give us a comment and hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified whenever we upload a video. For the regulars, we want to thank you because I know last week we announced we 1,000 subscribers, and it's all thanks to you. As of right now, we're at 1,550, so we are going towards 2,000 again, all because of you. So we're greatly appreciative for those of you who have stuck with us and who disseminate our videos. And we want to welcome all the new subscribers. But today, I want to talk about something that's going on in these here yet to be United States in general, and most specifically in the state of Maryland, because that's where I am right now, in the state of Maryland, right? But if you have not noticed, there's been a move over the past, I don't know, decade or so, maybe even longer, but it's actually become quite apparent in the past decade, a move to limit and restrict the right of speech. Right? Now, the U.S. Constitution, in which we are all told we should believe in because it's this fantastic document, and the First Amendment said you have the freedom of speech. As long as you don't yell fire in a crowded theater, you have freedom of speech. But I have noticed, and I'm sure many of you have, that there's been a steady attempt to erode this right. And I remember in the early years, my early years as a teacher, I'm talking back 2006, 2007, there was a bill going through Congress, and it was dealing with education. Very thick piece of legislation. But apparently right in the middle of it, there was a little clause that was buried in the middle of this legislation that would have made it a felony for any college professor or high school teacher to criticize the state of Israel or its prime minister. Now, this thing was about to be voted on in the House of Representatives and Congress, and apparently no one had read it except for one lady. She's no longer in the House of Representatives, but her name was Cynthia McKinney. She was a state representative from Georgia, and she read it, and she brought us, wait a minute now, they're about to take away the right of free speech from college professors and high school teachers. And so she brought it to people's notice, and eventually it was taken out. It was defeated. But they kept trying, right? About 3 years ago, the senior senator from the state of Maryland, Benjamin Cardin, sponsored a bill that would have made it a felony, punishable by 20 years in prison, or up to 20 years in prison, and up to $20 million for companies in these here yet to be United States to take part in the boycott of Israeli goods. That's the BDS movement, the boycott, divestment, and sanction movement that was used very effectively against the apartheid state in South Africa back in the 80s, and is now being used against the apartheid state of Israel today. He was trying to make this illegal and punishable by up to 20 years in prison and $20 million in fines to express yourself. Even though the Constitution, which he as a senator would tell you is the greatest document in the face of the earth in the history of mankind, and therefore we should follow it as good Americans or good American citizens or anybody living out here in America. But proves that he himself does not believe in the Constitution because he was trying to limit the First Amendment of American citizens. Well, guess what? It's not over. Last week, right here in the state of Maryland, in the state legislature, we had another rearing of the ugly head of anti-free speech. In this case, a lady by the name of Zainab Chaudry, Chaudry, Zainab Chaudry. She is, or was, she was part of the office of the Attorney General. She represented an organization called CARE, and that cares on American Islamic relations. Okay, so CARE is one of 20 organizations that's represented on this anti-hate board or anti-hate association that comes under the auspices of the Attorney General. Well, last week, about 4 days ago, Dr. Chaudry, Dr. Zainab Chaudry, was suspended by the Attorney General, Anthony Brown. Now, why was she suspended? Well, she made some comments on her Facebook page criticizing the Netanyahu government and the Zionist state of Israel on its handling of the Hamas situation. And because of that, she was suspended. Again, this is an attack on the First Amendment. But no one seems to care, because as long as it's in defense of Israel, then you can attack any part of the Constitution. Now, let me see what's going on. Here is an article. This article was done on WTOP News, and it was done by, the reporter is Mike Murillo, Murillo, and it's entitled, Leader of Maryland Chapter of CARE Temporarily Suspended from Hate Crime Task Force. That's what it is. It's a hate crime task force for social media posts on Israel-Hamas war. I don't know what he means by war. When one guy has a slingshot and another one has a tank, that's not a war. That's pretty much bullyism. But But here's what it says. So the leader of the Maryland chapter of the Council of American Islamic Relations has been suspended from the state commission tasked for with this commission is tasked with coming up with solutions to combat a rise in the number of hate crimes. All right. So Zainab Chaudry was taken off the commission by Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown after she made posts on social media allegedly critical of Israel's action in response to the October 7th attack by Hamas. Now, Ms. Chaudry's post was on her personal social media. She did not make these posts on the state social media or on the social media belonging to the task force. Her post was on a personal social media, and it says, in these very early days of the commission, have challenged the commission's ability to do its work. That's according to Attorney General Brown. Her post is challenging the commission's ability to do its work. No, Mr. Brown, her post is not challenging your ability to do the work. I tell you what I think is challenging your ability to do the work is your fear of the right, your fear of the Israeli or the Zionist support. It's your fear of these people running around every so often yelling wolf. You know, everything that they don't like is anti-Semitic and anti-Semitism. And that's what you're afraid of. That's what's challenging your ability to do your work, not Ms. Chaudry's post. Okay? Let me continue here. Brown, as chair of the commission, controls who from each organization serves on the board. So he has control. The commission must serve as a model for the entire state on how to respond to incidents of hate and bias. The commission is facing its first test. How we respond has deep implications. I take this very seriously, and I will do everything possible to bring people together to move forward the critical work of this commission, Brown said in a statement. I'm not sure how you going to bring people forward by suspending the only Muslim representative on the commission. I'm not sure that brings people forward, but you're a smart guy, Mr. Brown, so you obviously know better than I do. Now, speaking to WTOP about the decision, Dr. Chaudry called it, quote, deeply troubling, and said her suspension for making the post infringes on her First Amendment right. Now, if her First Amendment right could be infringed upon, what about yours, Maryland citizens? What about yours, Pennsylvania citizens? What about yours, Virginia citizens, or Washington, D.C. citizens, or citizens of any part of these here yet to be United States? Okay? You can say that you can criticize the U.S. government. You can criticize the President of the United States, whether it be Joe Biden or Donald Trump. You can criticize anybody, but you better not, as soon as you start criticizing the state of Israel or its leader, all of a sudden, that's a hate crime. All of a sudden, you have to be silenced. You have to be muzzled, all right? And that is what's going on here. So I remember someone asking this question once, or actually making a statement. He says, pay attention to what you cannot or who you cannot talk about, and you'll get a good idea of who's in control. Just look at who or what you can't talk about. In this case, you can't talk about Israel. You can't talk about the Zionists. You can be critical of anything they do. Otherwise, the hammer comes down on you. So that gives you a good indication of who's in control. It ain't Auntie Brown. It's not our governor, Westmore, right? Because he's the governor of the state, and I'm yet to see. I'm yet to see him make a statement about the treatment of Dr. Chaudry. Crickets. So who is really in control? Well, you guessed it. It's the people you can't talk about. The people who you get in trouble when you talk about. So that's what's going on in the state of Maryland in particular, and in these here yet to be United States in general. So be careful what you say. Be careful what you do. Because Big Brother is watching you. Big Brother is looking to see what you're posting on your social media. They're checking out your Facebook page. They're checking out what you're doing on TikTok. They're looking at everything that you do, and they're going to decide whether or not you have the right to speak or not to speak. And you can speak on some things, but you can't speak on other things. So now everybody is afraid. Think about this. There are 20 organizations that make up this commission or whatever. One of them has been suspended for making statements critical of Israel. If there were any others amongst the remaining 19 who had any ideas of criticizing Israel, well, guess what? Those ideas, poof, have vanished out of their minds, out of their heads, out of their hearts. Most of them are not going to take a chance on saying anything that could get them the same treatment as Dr. Chaudry. So what Anthony Brown has effectively done is he has put a limit on the actions and the statements of all the members of this commission by saying, let them know, actually, if you say this, this is what's going to happen to you. If you want to remain in this commission, you better follow these lines, right? If you thought that you could come here and voice your views honestly, no, you cannot. Because any criticism, any statement that does not go along with the narrative that Israel has the right to defend itself, even though it's the occupying force, that the Netanyahu government is full of a bunch of bumbling, bloodthirsty idiots, then you could be silenced. You could be removed. So be careful out there. Big Brother and his agents, like Anthony Brown, they're watching. This is the world as we see it. Until next time, Kwaheri, Assalamu alaikum.